Hello guys, today we are going to review the movie Cafe 1991 and let's start the review of this movie. Cafe 1991 is Cafe 1991. Its director is Martin Scorsese. Its cast are Robert De Niro, Mick Nolte, Jessica Lange, Juliette Lewis, and its genre is a psychological thriller crime movie. And if we talk about runtime, then its runtime is 128 minutes, and its IMDb rating is 7.3 out of 10. And let's do a story review. No spoiler first. Cap Fear is a dark psychological thriller about guilt, revenge, and more confront. The movie follows Mixer Max Caddy, a violent criminal who is released from prison after 14 years. Instead of rebuilding his life, he begins systematically terrorizing the lawyer he believes betrayed him during his trial. This is not a normal revenge story, it's a slow burning nightmare where fear grows mentally before it turns physical. And let's talk about performance breakdown. Uh, Robert De Niro, one of the most terrifying villains ever. De Niro's Max Caddy is calm but deadly, intelligent but sadistic, charming yet horrifying. His performance is pure magic. The tattoo accent, physicality, and psychologically manipulation make Max Caddy unforgettable. Many critics consider this one of De Niro's scariest roles without supernatural elements. And if we talk about Nick Nolte, a flawed protagonist, Nick Nolte plays a lawyer who is morally compromised. He has a broken family, make bad decisions under pressure. This makes the story realistic. The hero is not clean and perfect, which increase tension. If we talk about Juliet Lee's breakout role, only 17 years old during filming, plays the daughter with disturbing realism. Her scenes with De Niro are deeply uncomfortably intentional. She was Oscar nominated for this role. If we talk about direction and cinematography, Martin Scorsese uses extreme close-ups, Dutch angles, harsh lightings, red and blue color tones. These techniques makes viewers feel claustrophobic, paranoid, unsafe even in normal locations. And Bernard Herrmann's score, themes, and meaning. The movie explores abuse of legal power, hypocrisy, of morality, and And this movie said this movie explores abuse of legal power, hypocrisy of morality, revenge and psychological warfare, fear as weapon. Cape Fear asks who is truly evil, the criminal or the man who bends the law. The climax is brutal, chaotic, emotionally exhausting. It delivers a powerful moral conclusion without glorifying violence. If we talk about facts and trivia, it's very interesting. Remake of a classic. Original Cafe released in 1962. Robert Mitchum played Max Cady. Scorsese made darker and uh, more violent, we can say. And the Nero's body transformation. Uh, gained muscles, learned southern accent, paid a dentist $5,000 to damage his teeth, paid another $20,000 to fix them after filming. If we talk about tattoos were real almost. De Niro's tattoos were temporary, took 4 hours daily to apply. Inspired by religious fantasy, if we talk about real life controversy, movie was criticized by sexual tension, violence, intensity involving a minor character. Despite this, it was a box office success. If we talk about Oscar nomination, Juliette Lewis was Oscar nominated for Best Supporting Actress and Robert De Niro for Best Actor. If we talk about Scorsese, almost didn't direct. Steven Spielberg was originally attached. He swept off projects with Scorsese. Spielberg took Schindler's List. Scorsese took Cape Fear. If we talk about box office and reception, its budget was $35 million, but its box office collection was $182 million. And if we talk about critical response, mixed date release. Today considered a cult classic theme. Now let's know what worked and what not worked. And legendary villains, bugs, high tension throughout bugs, dark atmosphere work, strong performance work, psychological depth work. But what doesn't work? Some scenes feels excessive, very disturbing for some viewers, not for casual thriller fans. If we talk about final verdict, then it will be rated for 8.5. Cafe 1991 is not a comfort movie, not a simple thriller, a master class in psychological terror, we can say. And if you enjoy movies like Says and Prisoners, No Country for Old Men, this is a must watch. But if you and then let's go for more review of the movie. Uh, if we talk about deep psychological analysis, Max Caddy is not just a villain. Max Caddy represents weaponized intelligence, legal knowledge turned into revenge. If we talk about religion used as justification for evil, he doesn't rush, he studies the law, the family, human weakness. This makes him scarier than a normal killer. If we talk about moral ambiguity, why this movie smart. Nick North's character Sam Gordon hide evidence, violent ethics, destroyed a man's defense. And if we talk about the movie critically asks if the system creates monster who is responsible. That's why the audience feels uneasy supporting the hero. And if we talk about symbolism, you probably missed red and blue lighting, red violence, danger, temptation, and blue law, cold morality, and a false safety. Scorsese consistently shifts color to show who is in control when danger is uh, oppressing. And if we talk about religious symbolism, Max Candy constantly quotes the Bible, sin, and judgment, but he twists religion to justify cruelty. He sees himself as God's punishment, not a criminal. Iconic scenes and why they were. Max smokes the cigar scene, courtroom. Max smokes illegally, smiles calmly, don't Sam can't touch him. This scene shows psychological dominance, not violence. If we talk about Juliet Lewis scene, school theater, one of the most disturbing scene in 90s cinema, and no nudity, no physical violence, pure psychological manipulation. And fear comes from what could happen, not what does. And if we talk about the household climax, nature itself become uh, chaotic, storm, darkness, or symbolism. symbolizes moral collapses, loss of control, uh, consequence arriving. And if we talk about music and sound, they are underrated genius. Bernard Herrmann's score is intentionally overwhelming, loud, dramatic, uncomfortable, and critics hated it at first. Now it's praised because it mirrors Max Caddy's mental invention and why this movie aged well. In today's era, legal loopholes, manipulation, psychological abuse, cafe feels more relevant now than in 1990. Influence on pop culture inspired or influenced racism, prisoner, gone girl, named Crawler, the even the Simpsons parodied it, showing how iconic Max Candy became. If we talk about the Niro versus other villains, then firstly, villains Hannibal Lecter. His style is intelligent predator, and later if we talk about Joker, Ledge, Joker Ledger, its style is chaos, and if we talk about Anton Segura, its style is fat, and Max Caddy, legal terror plus obsession. Max Caddy is the only one who means mentally before violence begins. And if we talk about directors, intent discourses, then discourses wanted audience discomfort, moral confusion, no clear hero. That's why violence feels ugly. Fear feels personal, ending feels exhausting. If we talk about box office versus critics, fun fact critics were divided. Audience loved it, become a cult classic. Many critics later admitted we weren't ready for how dark it was, and while USA audience loves this film. Legal drama plus thriller, strong performance like psychology, adult themes, no spoon feeding, perfect for long explanation, ending breakdowns, psychology analysis. And if we talk about final verdict, then Cup Fear, 1991 is disturbing, intelligent, relentless, and morally complex movie. And if we talk about rating, then it found to 9 out of 10 rating. And not only you enjoy a movie, you survive. And if we talk about more review, then let's go for its one of the deepest review. It goes with the so Cafe 1991 absolute deep dive. Max Caddy is a system, not a man. Max Caddy is terrified because he never breaks the law in public, never loses emotional control, never rushes violence. He becomes a walking loophole. He weaponized the Constitution, civil rights, due process. The system that was meant to protect people now protects a predator. And if we talk about Sam Bowden, a hero built built on a lie. Sam Bowden isn't innocent. He hid evidence, decide a man's fate, played God in court. That single unethical choice creates 14 years of future terror. Cape Fear is not about crime, it's about consequence. And we talk about fear as a strategy, not emotion. Max Caddy doesn't want to kill immediately. He wants family breakdown, loss of trust, mental collapse. He uses surveillance, intimidation, isolation. This is psychological warfare, not revenge. And if we talk about Juliet Lewis, the true target, Max Caddy's real target is not Sam, it's his daughter. Why? She represents Sam's legacy. She is emotionally vulnerable. She creates maximum moral pain. This makes Max's revenge surgical, not chaotic. If we talk about camera language, Scorsese's genius. Scorsese consistently tight, tilts the camera, pushes into faces, breaks normal farming. This tells you brain really reality is unstable. You feel watched even then nothing happen. Why the music feels too loud, The score feels aggressive because Max Caddy never leaves mentally. Silence would feel like relief, Scorsese refuses comfort. The music is Mac's presence. If we talk about color theory, subconscious control, red colors meaning sin, danger, temptation, and blue is for false safety law, darkness is truth, and storm is judgment. The film speaks to you without uh, dialogue. Law versus justice core message. Law is not is equal to justice. The film argues law is technical, justice is moral. Max Caddy follows the law perfectly, yet remains pure evil. Sam breaks the law once, yet call himself good. That contradiction is the film's soul. If we talk about final climax, moral execution, the storm is not random. It symbolizes God's judgment, moral collapse, final consequence. Nature becomes the jury. De Niro's performance finds legendary. De Niro never overacts, never begs sympathy, never explains himself. He believes he is right. That makes him unstoppable. Why Cafe scares adults, not teens. No monster, no jump scares, no fantasy, just power, intelligence, and time. This is adult fear. White is better than most thrillers. Today, legal manipulation, psychological abuse, system loopholes, Kafir feels prophetic. If we talk about final verdict, Kafir 1991 is a moral nightmare, a legal horror story, psychologically sees. If we talk about its rating, it came up with 9.3 out of 10. It's not entertainment, it's experience. And Kafir 1991's ultimate analysis. The movie is actually about power, not revenge. Revenge is just the process. The real power struggle is who controls the rules, who decided what is right. Sam Warden once had institutional power, lawyer, courtroom, judges trust. Max Kitty gains intellectual power, legal knowledge, patience, fear. The film shows how power can shift without Violence. We talk about Max Caddy, the most dangerous types of villain, and Max Caddy is not impulsive. He is literate, strategic, patient, legally educated. That makes him more dangerous than a killer. Why? You can hide from violence. You can't hide from someone who knows your rights better than you. This is a horror film discussed as a thriller. No monsters, no jump scares, but the horror comes from being lost, being legally helpless, knowing the threat is inevitable. This is existential horror. If we talk about female characters and controls, underrated theme. Both women in the family are ignored, are dismissed, are emotionally vulnerable. Max Carey understands this faster than Sam. He exploits partial blindness. This is why the wife feels isolated. The daughter becomes the true battleground. Sam's failure as a protector is emotional, not physical. The Juliet Lewis scene, why they are essential. Many people say those scenes are too much, but narratively, Max testing boundaries. This is how far society lets him go. He's proving Sam's powerlessness. Nothing illegal happens. That's the point. Fear without crime is the ultimate domination. If we talk about camera, is equal to Max Caddy's point of view. Notice lost angle shots of Max dominance, high angle shots of Sam weakness, uh, close-ups is equal to invention of a space. The camera itself become a threat. You are never allowed to feel neutral. The remake improves the original rear case. 1962 versions, clear hero, clear villain, more certainty. 1991 version, corrupt hero, human villain, moral chaos. That's why the remake is remembered more. Why the ending is so exhausting. The ending doesn't feel victorious because no one truly wins. Damage is permanent. Innocence is gone. Scorsese refuses. Catharsis, celebrations, relief. This is anti-Hollywood. Lawyers hate the movie. Fun fact, many legally professionals criticize it because it exposes ethical gray areas, education's courtroom morality. It shows how law can fail victims. That discomfort means the film did its job. And why this movie works perfectly for US audience. Americans fears legal system abuse, individual right versus safety, home invention, family vulnerability. Fear attacks all of them. That's why it still resonates 30 plus years later. Max Caddy versus modern villains. Villains are Joker, what they represent chaos. Sugar, he represent fate, like to represent intellect, but Max Caddy represents systemic corruption. Max doesn't destroy society, he uses it. And if we talk about the final message of the film, justice without morality become cruelty. Morality without law becomes chaos. If we talk about Capiel lives in a terrifying space between both. If we talk about ultimate verdict, actually, Cafe 1991 is a psychological siege, a legal nightmare, a more interrogants, and it's 9.5 out of 10. Not a movie you recommended lightly, a movie you warn people about. And Cafe 1991, level 5, structural and philosophical breakdown. The film is structured like a legal case. The movie itself behaves like a court trial. Act 1 opening statements, past crime, ethical violence, introduction of threat. If we talk about Act 2, evidence and cross examination, psychological pressure, moral exposure, family as witness. Act 3, verdict. No clean judgment, punishment without victory, just revealed, not solved. If we talk about Scorsese turns the audience into The jury. Max Caddy is a product of the system, not an outsider. This is the most misunderstood part. Max Caddy learns law in prison, studies constitutions, uses civil rights language. The system tries to correct him but instead harms him. And if we talk about the film suggests some systems don't uh, reform evil, they educate. And why Max Caddy never panics? Fear works only if you care about outcome, you fear consequence. Max Caddy fear nothing because he already lost his life. Reason, arrest, normal desire, revenge become his identity. He is not chasing justice, he is completing uh, philosophy. And the family is a symbol, not just character. Each family members represents something. Same beliefs in, if we talk about characters, represents wife represents social image, daughter represent legacy, home represents safety, career represent authority. Max decimals them one by one, not randomly in order. The movie's most brutal idea: you can defeat voice, you can't defeat obsession. Max Caddy doesn't need to win physically. He only needs to exist, wait, return. That inevitability is the horror. Why the camera often overacts. Many critics call this camera too tighter, too aggressive, too dramatic. That's intentional. The camera reflects Sam's internal chaos, not there. The reality is normal. His mind is not. The daughter arc extremely important. She is the only character who see through both and reject moral extremely understands manipulation. She realizes her father isn't pure. Max isn't innocent. She is the only morally awake character. That's why she survives psychologically. If we talk about freedom versus safety, American core here. Max Kennedy excludes America's deepest contradiction. Freedom protects criminals, safety demands restriction. The film never answered which is right. It only asks how much freedom can a society afford. And why this film is uncomfortable for everyone, and because conservatives are lawfare, liberals are rights are abused, lawyers ethics exposed, parents protection illusion shattered, nobody leaves clean. The true ending, not the last scene. The real ending isn't the storm, it's a family that can't forget, a lawyer who can't feel righteous, a child who grew up too early, the damage is permanent. Why Capier is grown up movie? It assumes you understand moral compromise, you accept discomfort, you don't need heroes. That's why teens don't love it, adults fear it. Absolute final score Capier 1991 is not a thriller, it is a legal nightmare. A moral integration, a psychological seize. If we talk about rating, then it's the 9.6 out of 10. Not rewatchable for comfort, rewatchable for the truth. And if we go for more review of it, Cafe 1991 scene by scene disconstruction. Timestamps are approximate for understanding, not exact DVD time code. And if we talk about 0 to 6 minutes, the original scene we open with courtroom memory, Sam Warden's silent decision, evidence without meaning. The movie quietly tells you everything that follow is a no villain yet just a moral crime. If we talk about 6 to 14 minutes, Max Caddy is released. Max walks free, calm, controlled. Also, no music relief, no joy. Meaning, freedom is not redemption. It's, we can say, it's permission. This is where fear begins, not with violence, but with patience. If we talk about 14 to 25 minutes, the first contact Max appears on the street in public places, in legal spaces. He does nothing illegal. Its meaning this is psychological change. Max wants them to react first and break the law. If we talk about 25 minutes to 35, Sam loses control. Sam follows Max, hires thugs, commits assault indirectly, meaning the hero becomes the criminal at this moment. Max Caddy has already won. If we talk about 35 minutes to 45, family pressure begins. The wife feels unsafe, the daughter feels watched, Sam feels concerned, and it's um, meaning. Max doesn't attack the man, he attacks the structure around him. This is how fear is paid. If we talk about 45 to 55, the school theater scene. This is one of the most disturbing scenes without violence, and that's why that's called uh, grooming language, emotional manipulation, legal innocence. All these cause that reason. That's why it's the most disturbing scene, and its meaning next proves something terrifying. I can go anywhere, Lord, allow fear not become the now become sexual, parental, existential. And if we talk about 55 minutes to 65, Sam realizes the truth, and what kind of truth he uh, realized. He realized uh, law can't save him, police can't help, and ethics will first. Its meaning this is not a crime movie anymore, this is a moral horror film. If we talk about 65 minutes to 75 minutes, it's false security. The house feels protected, police presence increases, plans are made. Its meaning is versus always shows calm before collapse. This safety is temporary and uh, artificial, and after it, If we talk about 75 minutes to 90 minutes, then um, 75 to 90 minutes, Max takes control, Max breaks physical barriers, violates space, tread right without rush, meaning when fear matches, it's not longer heights. This is the shift from psychological sees a physical judgment. Uh, if we talk about 90 to 110 minutes, the strong moral apocalypse, the river, the boat, the darkness, meaning nature becomes the courtroom. No law, no ethics, only consequence. This is judgment without appeal. And 110 to the end, no victory. Max is gone, but trauma remains, morality is shattered, innocence is dead. Uh, Meaning the family survives, but they are not saved. Why this structure is perfect for. Let's go for next. Let's go for its more reviews. So this movie is Caviar. Uh, that came 1990. Once, why Caviar 1991 is a perfect money plus. Why Caviar is. If we talk about its overall impression, Caviar 1991 is a disturbing, relentless psychological thriller that explores fear not as sudden song but as a slow, suffocating presence. Rather than relying on jump scares or spectacles, the film builds terror through moral unease, character conflict, and psychological pressure. It's a film that leaves the viewers uncomfortable long after it ends, and that discomfort is intentional. If we talk about the story and narrative tone, the story revolves around a lawyer whose past ethical decision returns to haunt him in the form of a violent criminal he once helped imprison. When the man is released, the narrative does not immediately turn violent. Instead, it unfolds methodically, allowing tension to grow through legal loopholes, intimidation, and manipulation. Uh, the pacing is deliberate. The film takes its time to establish psychological dominance before physical danger ever appears. This slow escalation is one of the movie's greatest strength, as it makes the eventual charge feel inevitable rather than sudden. If we talk about character and performance, Max Cady, Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro delivers one of the most unsettling performances of his career. His portrayal of Max Cady is calm, articulate, and disturbingly controlled. He is not driven by rage in the traditional sense, but by obsession and conviction. The Nero's physical transformation, accent, and manner is to create a character that feels both intelligent and unpredictable. What makes Max Cady especially frightening is his patience. He doesn't rush, threaten openly, or lose composure. His confidence suggests that he believes himself morally justified, which adds an extra layer of meaning. If we talk about Sam Warden, Nick Nolte, Nick Nolte plays Sam Borden as deeply flawed protagonist. He is not portrayed as heroic or morally pure. His past actions raise uncomfortable questions about ethics, responsibility, and professional integrity. Knowledge performance emphasizes vulnerability and desperation, making the character feels human rather than idealized. This moral ambiguity strengthens the film as the conflict become more complex than a simple good versus evil narrative. If you talk about Leigh Broden, Jessica's lane of performance adds emotional realism to the story. Her character reacts as a real person would, with the fear, Daniel, and frustration she represents. The emotional toll of living under constant threat and provides grounding for the family dynamics. Daniel Browden Juliet Lewis gives a powerful and unsettling performance, especially considering her young age at the time. Her character is curious, vulnerable, and perspective making her interaction some of the most disturbing in the film. Lewis brings depth and realize that elevates the emotional stake. We talk about direction and visual style. Martin's score direction is bold and slight with his dynamic camera angles, extreme close-ups, and shifting perspective to create a sense of stability. These techniques are not subtle, but they are effectively mirrors of psychological sounds experienced by the character. The cinematography often feels oppressive, emphasizing confidence and paranoia. Ordinary locations become threatening simply through framing and movement. If we talk about music and sound, the musical score is intense and commanding rather than fading into the background. It consistently reinforces tension and unease. The sound design ensure that the viewer never feels relaxed even during quieter scenes. This aggressive approach to sound contributes significant to the film unsettling atmosphere. If we talk about theme and emotional impact, it at its core, Cap here examined moral responsibility, abuse of power, fear as psychological control, the consequence of unethical choice. The film suggests that action taken in the name of justice can still create lasting harm. It refuses to offer easy answer or moral clarity, leaving the audience to grapple with discomfort and ambiguity. If we talk about climax and resolution, then the final act is intense, chaotic, emotionally exhausting. And if we talk about strengths, powerful, unsettling performances, strong psychological tension, complex moral conflict, effective direction and atmosphere, memorable antagonist. And if we talk about weaknesses, some scenes may feel excessive or some overwhelming. The tone is relentlessly dark, not suitable for sensitive viewers. If we talk about final verdict, it's at 9 out of 10. Uh, Cafe 1991 is a masterfully crafted psychological thriller that challenges the audience emotionally and morally. It's not an easy film to watch, but it is rewarding one for viewers who appreciate intensity, complexity, and strong performances. The movie stands as one of the most disturbing and thought-provoking thrillers of the early 1990s. And if you go for its more review, let's go for its more review. And if we talk about viewing experience and emotional weight, then watching Caviar is an exhausting experience by design. The film doesn't allow the audience to relax or detach. Even quieter scenes carry a sense of tension, making the viewers consistently anticipate danger. This state unease is one of the film's defining qualities. Unlike thrillers that rely on sudden shocks, Caviar wears the audience down gradually. The fear feels unvisive rather than explosive, which makes the experience more psychological draining but also more immersive. If we talk about violence and intensity, the violence in Kafir is not weakened, but when it occurs, it is harsh and unsettling. Scorsese avoid glamorizing brutality, instead, violence moments feel ugly, chaotic, and disturbing. This approach reinforces the seriousness of the story and prevents the film from becoming sensational. Some scenes are intentionally uncomfortable, especially those involving intimidation and emotional manipulation. These moments may be difficult for some viewers, but they serve the film's purpose of reinforcing the constant that hanging over the characters. The pacing of the film is deliberated and methodical. The first half focuses heavily on build-up tension and psychological pressure. Some viewers may find this slow, but it's essential to the way of in the later stages. The second half accelerates dramatically, shifting from control maniac to open confrontation. This contrast makes the climax feels earned rather than rushed. The film's structure allows the tension to be natural, maintaining engagement throughout its runtime. If we talk about dialogue and writing, the dialogue in Kafir is sharp and purposeful conversation often feel loaded with unspoken truths and hidden meanings beneath the seemingly ordinary exchanges. The writing avoids excessive exposure, trusting the audience to understand the implication of what is said and what is left unsaid. Next, Caddy's dialogue is particularly effective. His words are calm and deliberate, often more unsettling than our threats. This restraint makes his presence feel constant and unavoidable. If we talk about realism and believability, while the film is high-end and stylized, it remains emotionally believable. The characters react in ways that feel human, with fear, denial, anger, and poor judgment. This realism grounds the story, preventing it from feeling like an exaggerated thriller. If we talk about the legal and personal consequences portrayed in the film add weight to the narrative, making the danger feel plausible rather than purely fictional. If we talk about rewatch, Cafe is not an easy rewatch in the way comfort films. And if we talk about this movie's review, then we have to wait, I think, uh, little time. Okay, I think it's come with if you talk about release, where was it? Where we were, brother? Huh. We were at the point rewatch. Well, cafe and not an easy rewatch in the way comfort films are. Uh, However, it has a strong rewatch value for viewers who appreciate intense drama on subsequent viewing, performance and character interactions reveals greater depth, especially in the way tension is established early on. The film rewards attention, viewing as small details in behavior and dialogue becomes more noticeable over time. If we talk about place in 1990s cinema, within the landscapes of early 1990s thriller, Cap here stands out for boldness and seriousness. Many films of the era focused on action, drive, suspense. And if we talk about Capier, learn heavily into psychological terror and moral discomfort. Its willingness to challenge the audience and avoid easy resolution help it endure long after similar films faded from memory. If we talk about audience and suitability, this film is best suited for viewers who enjoy intense psychological thrillers. Audience comfortable with dark themes, fans of character-driven stories. It may not be suited for casual viewers seeking light entertainment, those sensitive to disturbing content. Viewers who prefer fast paced action. If we talk about overall legacy, over time, Kafir has earned recognition as one of the most unsettling thrillers of its era. Its performance, direction, and uncompromising tone have helped it remain relevant decades after its release. The film is often remembered for emotional impact rather than a specific plot twist, which speaks to its lasting power. We talk about final thoughts extended. Kafir is a film that demands attraction and emotional investment. It doesn't aim to entertain lightly, but to confront the viewer with fear, tension, and moral unease. strength lies in its seriousness and its refusal to soften the experience for comfort. For viewers willing to engage with its intensity, Cape Fear remains a gripping and memorable cinematic experience. And let's step for its more ultimate review. Let's go for it. So you have to took a little wait for it because it's loading and let's go for it. And let's firstly talk about atmosphere and psychological pressure. Then the atmosphere in the cafe is operational from start to finish. The films create tension not just through events but through anticipation. Even ordinary movement feels like threatening because danger is always implied. Rather than announce this constant pressure is what makes the film exhausting in a deliberate and effective way. The sense of fear doesn't come from unpredictability alone, but from inevitability. The viewer understand that confusion is unavoidable, which makes each scene feels like step closer to disaster. And use of space and settling location in the film are used to heighten anxiety. Home streets, courtrooms, and public places settling that usually imply safety or order are presented as vulnerable and expose this reinforce the idea that no space is truly secure. The reverse setting in the final act adds a uncontrolled environment that contrasts sharply with earlier structured locations. This shift emphasizes the breakdown of order and control as the story reaches at its peaks. If we talk about emotional dynamics within the family, one of the film's strongest elements is the way it portrays stress. Within the family unit, I fear slowly erodes trust and communications. Character becomes the family reaction feel authentic moments of Daniel frustration and helplessness are portrayed without exaggerated. This realism depends the emotional impact of the film, moral unease and discomfort. The film does not offer a clean moral center. The protagonist's past decisions create uncomfortable questions about responsibility and consequence. This lack of moral clarity keeps the audience unsettled as sympathy is divided rather than absolute. The antagonist's actions are unquestionably disturbing, but the film avoids presenting the conflict as entirely one sided. This complexity makes the story more engaging and emotionally challenging. If we talk about consistency of tone, one of Kafir's greatest strengths is its commitment to tone from beginning to end. The film maintains an intense, serious atmosphere. There are no tonal breaks or moments of relief designed to ease the audience. This consistency reinforces immersion and keeps tension high throughout the runtime. The film never shifts into humor or sentimentality, which help preserve its emotional weight. If we talk about technical craft and control, the editing supports the film's psychological focus. Cuts are purposeful, often lingering slightly uh, longer than expected to increase discomfort. The pacing of scene is carefully controlled to allow tension to breathe rather than rush forward. We talk about camera movement and framing frequently place characters in vulnerable position, reinforcing a sense of exposure and instability. These technical choices serve the story rather than distract from it. If we talk about impact on the viewer, By the end of the film, the viewers is left emotionally drained rather than relieved. The resolution brought closer to the conflict, but not emotional comfort. This lingering unease is intentional and centered to the film's identity. The fear experienced while watching Capture feels uneasy, almost personal, which is why the film remains memorable long after viewing. If we talk about enduring scenes, sustained psychological tension, intense committed performance, serious, uncompromising tone, effective use of setting and atmosphere, emotional realism. If we talk about final extended verdict, Kafir is a film that refused to be passive entertainment. It's demanding, intense, and emotionally heavily. Its power lies not in genre, but in its ability to create a prolonged psychological discomfort through strong performance and disciplined direction. For viewers who appreciate serious thriller that prioritize tension and character over spectacle, Caviar remains a standout work and a deeply unsettling experience. And if we go for its more ultra deep review, then let's talk about first time viewing experience. On the first watch, Caviar feels increasingly claustrophobic as the story progresses. The audience becomes aware that traditional solutions will not work. Legal systems, social norms, and personal boundaries all fail to provide protection. The realization creates the realization creates a deep sense of helplessness that grows scene by scene. The film encourages the viewer to share the character's anxiety. You are not watching fear from a safe distance, you are placed inside it. Each interaction feels like it could tip into violence even when nothing explicitly happens. If we talk about sense of control and power, a central tension in the film comes from the imbalance of control. The antagonist operates with patience and precision, while the protagonist reacts emotionally and defensively. This contrast makes the threat feel overwhelming. The film emphasizes how power can exist without constant action. Simply being present is enough to dominate a situation. This reaction makes the antagonist more frightened than someone driven purely by impulse. If we talk about physicality and presence, the performance rely heavily on physical presence rather than dialogue alone. Body after body language, posture, eye contact, and silence carry as much weight as spoken words. Small gesture becomes unsettling because they suggest intent without revealing it. This focus on physicality adds realism and intensity, making interactions feels dangerously intimate. If we talk about escalation without relief, there are no true causes in tension. And if we talk about escalation without relief, there are no true pauses in tension, even moments that appear calm are temporary and figure the film avoids giving the audience emotional release until the very end. And even then, the relief is limited. This consistent escalation without reset makes the runtime feel dense and heavy, reinforcing the seriousness of the story. And if we talk about emotional cost, by the conclusion, the emotional damage feels permanent. The films avoid presenting a clean return to normalcy. What has been experienced cannot simply be forgotten or undone. This refusal to offer emotional Comfort restrains the film's impact. The story feels consequential rather than content. If we talk about narrative point and confidence, Kafir is confident in its approach. It does not rush to explain or justify every action. The film trusts the audience to interpret behavior and motivates through observation rather than exposition. This confidence gives the movie a mature tone and helps maintain immersion throughout. If we talk about intensity across acts, first act control, tension, psychological unease, second act growing intimidation, emotionally instability, final act raw, confrontational, loss of control. Each act builds natural on the last, creating a steady increase in pressure without sudden tonal shifts. While the film still feels stronger, the film remains effective because it focuses on timeless human fears, vulnerability, obsession, and loss of safety. These elements do not aid allowing the movie to remain impactful. Even years after its release, its seriousness and commitment to discomfort prevent it from feeling dated or trivial. And if we talk about final extended conclusion, Cafe 1991 is a demanding psychological thriller that prioritizes emotional release and sustained tension over spectacles. It challenged the viewers to endure discomfort rather than escape it. The film's power lies in its patience, its performance, and its refusal to soften its messages. It is not meant to be enjoyed casually. It is meant to be felt. If we read the feeling of being watched, one of the most disturbing aspects of Kafir is the constant sense of surveillance. The antagonist's presence feels unavoidable even when he is not physically on screen. This creates a persistent anxiety that mirrors the Characters' fear of being observed, followed, or anticipated. The film uses feeling effectively, making the audience share the characters' paranoia. Every public places feels exposed, and every private moment feels temporary. If we talk about the fear through anticipation, rather than relying on sudden shock, or the film builds fear through anticipation. The viewers often know that danger is approaching long before it rises. This waiting stressed across scenes becomes more unsettling than the confrontation itself. This approach requires patience, but it pays off by creating sustained dread rather than movement. If we talk about character isolation, as tones increase, characters become emotionally isolated from one another. Communications breaks down, decisions are made impulsively. This isolation amplifies vulnerability and reinforces the idea that fears disrupts rational behavior. The film portrayed this breakdown convincingly without exaggeration or melodrama. The characters feel trapped not only by the antagonists but by their own stress and fears. So that was the review of the movie Cafe 1991. I hope you like it, you enjoyed it, and goodbye for now. Let's meet tomorrow with one more movie review, and then goodbye.